You're closer than you think. Have you ever felt like you're not making progress? Like you've been working towards something for so long, but you're still far from where you want to be? Maybe you're learning a new language, trying to build a healthier lifestyle, or working on a personal goal. You look at where you are now, and then you look at where you want to be, and the distance feels enormous. It's easy to feel discouraged in those moments. But here's something important to remember. You're probably closer than you think. Much closer. And today, I want to talk about why that is and why it matters. When we're in the middle of working towards something, we often can't see how far we've actually come. It's like climbing a mountain. When you're halfway up, you're focused on the rocks in front of you. The next step, the steepness of the path. You're tired. Your legs hurt. And if you only look up at the peak, it still seems so far away. But if you turn around for a moment and look down, you might be surprised. You've already climbed so high. The parking lot where you started looks tiny now. The trees that seemed so tall at the beginning are now below you. You've made real progress, but because you were so focused on what's still ahead, you didn't notice what you've already accomplished. This happens in all areas of life. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone who decides to start running. On the first day, they can barely run for 5 minutes without stopping. Their chest burns, their legs feel heavy, and they wonder if they'll ever be able to run a full mile. So they keep trying. Every few days, they go out and run a little more. After 2 weeks, they can run for 10 minutes. After a month, maybe 15. But here's the thing. They don't feel like a runner yet. They still think of themselves as a beginner. They see other people running past them easily, and they feel slow and awkward. So they think they're not making progress. But they are. They've tripled their running time. Their heart is stronger. Their lungs work better. Their body has changed. They just can't see it clearly because they're comparing themselves to where they want to be, not where they started. Or, think about learning English. Maybe you've been studying for a year or two. At first, you could barely introduce yourself. Now, you can have simple conversations. You can watch videos and understand most of what's being said. You can read articles, send messages, and express your thoughts. But you still make mistakes. You still forget words sometimes. You still feel nervous when you have to speak. And because of that, you might think your English isn't good enough yet. You might feel frustrated. But stop for a moment. Remember the first time you tried to say something in English? Remember how hard it was? Remember how strange the sounds felt in your mouth? And now, look at you. You're listening to this passage right now, and you're understanding it. That's not small. That's incredible. You've learned thousands of words. You've trained your brain to think in a new language. You've built something real. You're so much closer to fluency than you were before, even if fluency still feels far away. The problem is that progress doesn't always feel like progress when you're living through it. Change happens slowly, day by day, in tiny amounts. And our brains aren't very good at noticing tiny amounts. We notice big, dramatic changes. If you lose 10 pounds in one day, you definitely notice. But losing 1 pound over 10 days, You probably wouldn't see it. Yet the result is the same. The progress is real. It's just harder to see because it happens gradually. There's a story I heard once that illustrates this beautifully. A man planted a bamboo seed in his garden. He watered it every day. He made sure it had sunlight. He took care of the soil. But nothing happened. Weeks went by, months went by, still nothing. A whole year passed, and there was no sign of the bamboo. The man started to feel discouraged. He wondered if the seed was broken, if he was doing something wrong, but he kept watering it anyway. Another year passed, still nothing. Then a third year, the man almost gave up. But in the fourth year, something finally appeared. A tiny green shoot broke through the soil. And then, suddenly, everything changed. That bamboo plant grew 90 feet tall in just 6 weeks. 90 feet. In 6 weeks. But here's the key. It wasn't really 6 weeks of growth, it was 4 years. For all that time, when nothing seemed to be happening, the bamboo was growing underground. It was developing a massive root system, strong and deep, so that when it finally broke through the surface, it could grow incredibly fast. Your progress is like that bamboo. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. Every time you practice, every time you try, every time you show up, even when it's hard, you're building roots. You're creating a foundation. And one day, maybe sooner than you expect, you'll break through. You'll have a conversation in English and realize you didn't have to translate in your head. You'll run a mile without stopping and feel strong. You'll look at your work and realize it's actually good. And it will feel sudden, like it happened overnight. But it didn't. It happened because of all those days when you kept going, even when you couldn't see the results. Another reason we feel farther from our goals than we really are is because we compare ourselves to others. We see someone who seems to be exactly where we want to be, and we assume they got there easily. We don't see the struggles they went through. We don't see the years of practice, the failures, the moments when they wanted to quit. We only see the result, and then we look at ourselves, and we see all our messy efforts and mistakes, and we think we're so far behind. But that's not a fair comparison. You're comparing your beginning to someone else's middle or end. You're comparing your behind the scenes to their highlight reel. I remember when I first started teaching English. I felt completely lost. I would watch experienced teachers lead their classes with such confidence and skill, and I thought I would never be able to do what they did. They made it look effortless. Their students were engaged, their lessons flowed smoothly, and they always seemed to know exactly what to say. Meanwhile, I was nervous and awkward. I forgot what I wanted to say. My explanations were confusing. Some of my lessons were honestly pretty bad, and I felt so far from being a good teacher. But one day, one of those experienced teachers told me something I'll never forget. She said, "You know, I felt exactly the way you feel now. For years, I made so many mistakes. I had lessons that completely failed, but I kept showing up, and slowly, it got easier. You're doing fine. You're exactly where you should be." That conversation changed everything for me, because suddenly I realized that the gap between where I was and where I wanted to be wasn't as big as I thought. I just needed to keep going. The truth is, the final stretch is often shorter than we imagine. Think about a long car trip. Let's say you're driving across the country, and it's going to take 10 hours. After 5 hours, you're only halfway there, and you still have 5 hours to go. That's a long time. You're tired. You're bored. The road seems endless. But then you get to hour 8. Now you only have 2 hours left. That's not so bad. You can do 2 hours. And suddenly, the end doesn't feel so far away anymore. The same distance that felt impossible at the beginning now feels manageable. You're in the final stretch. You're closer than you think. The same thing happens with goals. In the beginning, everything is hard because you're learning the basics. You're building the foundation. But as you progress, things start to click. Patterns become clear. Skills that once felt impossible start to feel natural. And before you know it, you've crossed a threshold. You're not a beginner anymore. You're somewhere in the middle, or maybe even approaching the end. And the finish line, which once seemed so distant, is now within reach. So, how do you remind yourself of this? How do you see your progress when it's hard to notice? One way is to keep a record. Write down where you are today. Maybe it's a journal entry about your English level, or a photo of yourself, or a note about what you can and can't do yet. Then, in 3 months, look back at that record. You'll be amazed at how much has changed. You'll see the progress that was invisible to you day by day. Another way is to celebrate small wins. Did you understand a sentence today that you wouldn't have understood last month? That's a win. Did you have the courage to speak even though you were nervous? That's a win. Did you show up and practice even though you didn't feel like it? That's a win. These small wins add up. They're the proof that you're moving forward. And here's one more thought. Even if you're not as far along as you hope to be, you're still farther than you were before. That counts for something. That counts for a lot, actually, because the alternative was to not try at all. The alternative was to stay where you were. But you didn't. You took a step, and then another, and another. And every single one of those steps brought you closer. You're building something. And the beautiful thing about building something is that once it's built, it's yours. Nobody can take it away from you. The English you've learned, the strength you've gained, the skills you've developed, they're permanent. They're part of you now. I want you to imagine something for a moment. Imagine yourself 1 year from now. You've kept going. You've kept practicing, kept learning, kept trying. Where will you be? What will you be able to do that you can't do now? How will you feel about yourself? I think you'll be proud. I think you'll look back at today and realize that this moment, right now, was part of the journey. It wasn't a failure or a setback. It was just one more step on the path. And that path is taking you somewhere good. So if you're feeling discouraged today, if you're wondering whether all your effort is worth it, I want to remind you, you're closer than you think. The progress is real, even if you can't see it yet. The roots are growing underground. The distance is shorter than it feels. And every day that you keep going, you're moving forward. Maybe not as fast as you'd like. Maybe not in a straight line. But forward. Always forward. Keep going. You're doing better than you know. And one day soon, you're going to look up and realize that you've arrived. Not at the very end, there's no such thing as the very end when it comes to learning and growing, but at a place where you feel capable and confident. A place where you can see how far you've come, and you'll smile, because you'll remember this moment. The moment when you almost gave up, but you didn't. You kept going, and that made all the difference. You're closer than you think. I really believe that, and I hope you'll believe it too.